Actually, I did actually want to start off by speaking about the deep cuts thing that you did, because I watched you doing all the tunes on the acoustic guitar. Is that how they start off before you bring them to the band, or?
Yeah, primarily I'll start with some form of chordal pattern and then take a vocal melody from that. It usually ends up, a lead line will change it about a couple times. It never really, from maybe the first 3 months of us playing it, it never ends up as the same, but they all start just chords and lyrics. That's primarily where they all start from, and then we add everything else around that.
And obviously, we all studying at music college.
Yeah, we were all at the Academy of Music and Sound, which is now down at the bottom of Leith. That's where me, Scott, Neil, and our old guitarist met. All a bit confused. Just knowing that we wanted to do music though, like that was the thing. Like I never wanted to study music to come out with a degree. I wanted to study music because I wanted to meet people within the industry, and that seemed like a shortcut for that. I don't know if that was the same for you guys, but
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, I can't speak for Neil, but yeah, for me it was not a whole lot of musicians where I'm from.
Do you think studying there has affected the way that you write and the way that you think about writing songs at all?
potentially. Like I'm in the song. I was in the songwriting part of it, and it just like teaches you how to explore new topics and things like that. But I don't think anything, especially Spyyn related, I've used from that. But I think it was just good to teach you maybe how to filter certain things out and how not to drag out certain things. But I definitely wouldn't say it was a waste of time. I'd say like we at least did something there.
Yeah, it was a good laugh for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, missing deadlines constantly
Oh yeah.
and just never turning up. That was our ethos. I, I don't think that reflects us at all as musicians, but
No, I just like this couch better than college, man.
that's definitely the way it went for a while.
I mean, one of the things that ties into like the uniqueness of your sound is your kind of voice and your vocal tone. How would you describe that to someone that's not heard it before?
People I've met in the pub have told me it's like a deeper Morrissey, which I hate. Despite the fact that I've done a couple Smiths covers and people seem to quite like it, but I think it's definitely. I got drummed into me from quite an early age to cut the Scottish accent out my voice, or at least try to. Like I know in songs like Pam that's a wee bit different, but I used to really want to be Sam McTrusty from Twin Atlantic, so I tried to imitate that voice for a couple of years, and then I started getting singing lessons, and they were all classical, so that was all smacked out of me pretty quickly. But I think it's just trying new things makes it a little less boring, and like we're not a punk band or anything, so we don't shout, so like you have so much more ability to experiment with that as well. Especially with Millie coming in as well. Like Millie, I feel like we have fairly similar voices in the sense that she's a female but hers is quite a low register, and they're both semi-nasally kind of voices as well. I don't think a lot of people don't think there's a lot of clarity in them, but I think that also makes for more uniqueness.
Then you bring out the clarity in each other nowadays.
Yeah, I definitely think we've experimented more vocally since having Millie in, because we've never, like Scott doesn't sing and neither did Ewan beforehand, and there wasn't really the option of backing vocals, but especially with new stuff, like things we have coming out in the next few months, there's even just like little subtle things like your oohs and such. It builds a song, and it like builds on that thing that we're trying to portray, that we like to call ourselves ambient because we like to have it as wide a space as possible. Like that is our sound, as we like to call it. Like it might be slightly heavier at points, it might be slightly drained back, but it's ambient. There's so much space that, and adding another vocal sort of helped us portray that.
One of the things it does tie into it is the kind of eclectic mix of influences. That also ties into the uniqueness of your sound. Are you, when you're writing a song, are you conscious of the genre you want it to kind of be in, or?
Potentially, yeah, but I don't think I ever want it to be in the genre of Spyyn. Like I never go, this is our sound, or anyone when they're writing any part of it. We never think like we might be inspired by something at the time, and you wanted this individual song to sound like that, but we never take into consideration what we want us to sound like. It's more if we feel it suits, and we feel it, like, I know songs like Pristine are nothing like anything else that we have out, at least. It's heavy and it's gritty. It still has like that melodic side to it as well, but compared to Pam and Dirty Disco and our new song that we're bringing out in a couple of weeks, it's very different. But I think we wanted to put that out because it shows a different side to us as well. Like, we aren't just a jangly band as well. We also have a bit of grit to us, and like, I'd like to think our live show sometimes portrays that easier than listening to it online. Like, we aren't chucking guitars about, but there's still that raw energy.
Yeah. You mentioned the live show there. When you're switching between the different songs that are quite contrasting to each other, does that affect your stage presence? Because obviously sometimes different genres and different songs demand a different stage presence. Is that something you think about on stage at all? Or?
I think that's definitely one that just happens naturally on stage. Like, we kind of plan the set as well, so that we're quite conscious of when and where we put certain songs. So obviously we're not going to put the most intense song, the first song. Like, we're always going to, for a long time we try to build it up to a point, and we had kind of like two halves of the set. But now we're kind of, as we're writing more songs, we're changing it up and making it kind of flow, I think, better, rather than just being a constant incline and then the show's done. It takes you for a bit more of a journey nowadays, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like, we, like the more jangly stuff we played in the first half of our set, and it was a wee bit easier to digest than going straight into heavier stuff. So I think like it's finding that nice balance between, like, we literally used to do halfway and then the back end of the set was a wee bit heavier. But it's maybe easier now to find ways to flow those in and out of each other, especially with some of the newer stuff we've been doing as well, that we're planning on putting out for an EP next year. None of it really follows that same theme of whether it's light or heavy. It's all just a mix, and I think we found a happy medium with that. It's not heavy in the way that punk is. It's not that in your face, but it's potentially more instrumentally heavy.
So quite easily identifiable as Spyyn as well, rather than going
and
a completely different direction.
Like, I think that's what we struggled with for a while. Like, with our early set, it was a wee bit scattered, and for ages we didn't want any songs that were potentially too slow a tempo, etc. like that, or it was too moody or something like that. But I don't think we're as afraid to do that now. I think it just adds to the set. Like, people aren't gonna throw themselves about and jump if we are the first band on that they've never heard of. They're gonna want to listen and digest. So I think it's easier if you can just have the best songs possible. It doesn't really matter the mood of them, but like learning how to flow that throughout the set and like bring the mood down at the right time is something we've had to work on.
Yeah. And taking that live set on the road, you also did the Hit the Road tour last year. What was that kind of experience like, heading out on the road and that?
That was sick.
They treat you so well, man. We got to go in a splitter van that had Xboxes in it. Like, I applied for that. I think even before we'd played a show, and we got like the offer like 6 months later. But there was members of Frightened Rabbit at all the shows. We got to do pre-production with Mark from Father Son. It was a bit mental, and they feed you really well. Like, we've never been so steaming at a gig, or before a gig, as we were to Dundee. Like, we started bevving at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like, when we'd usually just start bevving as soon as we got in. Like, not heavily. We usually try and keep to like 2 beers tops before we go on stage, but we really ripped the piss that night. Like, we were so excited. We were drinking in a van going the way up. We'd maybe had like eight or 9 cans before we'd even loaded into the venue. And then Neil Reynolds, who was our tour driver, took us into Spoons, and then it was like, I think you guys need something to eat before you sound check. And then they bought you like Domino's every night as well. But especially for like us, like, we hadn't played any really big shows, or like
Like
Where
the
the
church was the biggest venue we played to that point, no? Like in Dundee.
Oh yeah, definitely in Dundee. Like before that, we'd played Conroy's Basement to no one, and then we played maybe to like over 100 people. But it was still a good experience, and it showed us potentially like that there's so much work still to be done. Like we definitely weren't at a stage where we could put on that kind of production level and do it off our own backs. I think it definitely made you more aware of what you had to work towards, but still a really good time.
And one of the things I did want to ask about as well in relation to gigs was the role of promoter. Obviously with bands now on social media, it seems that bands are doing quite a lot of promoting. Do you think the role of promoter is more or less important than it's been in the past?
Yeah, I feel that especially if you're not playing massive venues, then the role of the promoter is... I feel it varies on promotion company, but I feel you typically find now that the promotion is on your back and it feels that you work for the promoter and the promoter works for you. It's always the incentive that you have to sell X amount of tickets, and which it takes away from the fun, and it makes it into a business, especially for people that aren't wanting to make it a business, people that just want to have it as like a hobby and make it fun, and people are putting sudden financial pressure on you for 100 cap rooms as well, saying if you don't sell this, but like you learn very quickly these aren't the people to work with, and then you find more steady promoters. But you seem to find a lot now that a lot of bands seem to just surpass the promoter and they'll just do it themselves. Like the promoter really is just fronting the venue and then making sure everyone gets paid. That's essentially their role on the night at least. And if you can commit to fronting the venue, then you don't really need the promoter. It's more like booking agents that are the essential thing, because it is harder to book full tours and things like that. But if you're just looking at like short sneakies or something like that, like the role of promoter isn't too essential. I feel like Sneaky Pete's actually promotes shows better than most promoters do. Like Nick at Sneaky's does an amazing job.
Yeah. I did want to have a few questions about the new single as well. First thing that's from me when I heard it is a guitar riff. Was that something you had before and then you used for the song, or was that something you came up with after you had the lyrics and stuff for this tune?
And I didn't have the same riff. I wrote that song over Christmas time when we just weren't doing anything. Like we'd said we were stopping doing stuff just for like December. And I had the chordal pattern, and then I kept playing about with like those 6 notes, and I couldn't figure out an order. And then I finally decided on it, and then we took it into practice. And I'm not the lead guitarist, but I was so confident that this was a catchy lead line, and I wanted our old guitarist to play it. I didn't want to play the lead in it, and he kept trying to change it, and I was like, no, I'll just play it if you're going to be like this. And we got to a stage where everyone that comes to see it says they can't get out of their heads. Like we go on nights out with our pals after, and they keep shouting the song at us. So I think that's a pretty good sign.
Yeah.
Like I don't think it's annoying. But it's pretty easy to like get stuck in your head, which I think, from a promotional standpoint, can only really do you good. But I think it literally came by accident. Like I was playing about with those notes just in a different order, and then I finally decided on one that was semi-catchy. But then I also think that the bass line makes that song more than the lead. Like especially like in the first mix we got, like the bass was so high in the mix, and it really drives the song as well, because like there's very little guitar in most of it essentially. Like all the verses, there's only a tiny bit of guitar.
Yeah.
And in terms of lyrically as well, what sort of ideas were you going into the song with, and what sort of things were you trying to...
It's based around, like, it's being at a social gathering or a party with your mates, and that waking up on someone's couch at 2 o'clock the next afternoon, everyone's spieling off all this shit you done the night before, and I swear this never happened. But like that was the whole concept of it. It's also like when we wrote the lyrics, we'd started making a lot more new pals around Edinburgh as well, like going on a lot more nights out with them, and that theme kept reoccurring, and I thought it would be a pretty good topic to it because it's fairly relatable as well, like especially like in our Scottish youth sense, like everyone's done it, and I mean I don't know if you'd realise that listening to it straight away, but I think it drums in fairly easily.
Yeah, I've just got a couple left to finish off. One thing I did ask about is obviously being an Edinburgh band. Do you feel that sometimes maybe Edinburgh gets a little bit overlooked in the Scottish scene? Because there are a lot of great bands coming from Edinburgh, but sometimes it doesn't feel like it gets.
100%, man. It feels like we've been told this phrase that you want to be Glasgow cool. You're not anything until you're Glasgow cool, and you literally like we don't care about that, but like you can't be that unless you're geographically from Edinburgh, from Glasgow, sorry. But like there is so many good bands coming out of Edinburgh. I just don't think that it's in the same concentrated sound as it is in Glasgow. Like you have bands like the Dancer Scout and Baby Strange that all form under this bubble. They all are the same thing. So it's so easy for people to then go, oh, I like them as well, because it is the same. Like different songs and slightly different sounds, but the same like indie punk ethos. Whereas from Edinburgh, you've got bands like Book Club who are
shoegazy.
It's like shoegazy, eerie bands like us, and then Indigo Velvet, which is like tropical pop. But like, it is such a wide variety in Edinburgh, which I think is maybe why it's harder to cling on to. Also the venues, like there's such a big jump between venues, so it's so hard to grow. So you could play somewhere like Sneaky's consistently, and your next big jump in terms of like an applicable venue is Mashhouse, and that's 3 times the size. Whereas in Glasgow, you can build up 50 cap each time. You could play a headline show that's 100, 150 cap, right the way up till somewhere like the Garage, which is like 700, and then you take a bigger jump after that. But for Edinburgh, it's so hard to actually take that jump, because you either have to be at a stage where you can sell 300 tickets or just about sell 300 tickets, but it's harder to grow, I think, in that sense. But I don't think we take it as a disadvantage at all. Like, I don't think we really conform to, like, we rep Edinburgh, but I don't think it influences anything we'd put out. Like, we would always say we're an Edinburgh band. Like, over, like, a lot of people don't, because they don't want the bracket. Like, they potentially want you to think they're from Glasgow or something like that, but I don't think it's something we've ever really cared about, especially because most of us aren't from Edinburgh. Like Neil's from Leith, I'm from just outside Edinburgh, and then Scott's from Helensburgh and Millie's from Peebles. So I think it's easier to rep Edinburgh just because it's where we congregate.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's essential to like not be from Glasgow. But I think that it's potentially becoming easier for bands to break through from Edinburgh. Like, I think with Glasgow getting bigger as well, it's making bands be more competitive. Like, there's really, really good bands coming from Edinburgh right now. Like Swim School are doing absolute bits. Like, and what, they've only been in the public eye since March or something like that. Like, going on tour with the Exits. Like, and for an Edinburgh band, that's big stuff. And then you have bands like Folda, like just experimental stuff. Like, it's not all the same, and I think that's what's unique about Edinburgh.
Yeah. And to round it off, was it 18 months you've been?
Yeah, around that.
Which has been the biggest surprise so far about being in a band?
Big surprise.
For me, I think it was like on the Hit the Roads when we got to do the pre-production with Mark Strain from Fatherson, because I've been a massive Fatherson fan since I was maybe like 15, something like that. And they misspelled his name in the email as well when they told us, and they said from Fathers as well. So I was like, I didn't know. I thought it was maybe someone from Young Fathers as well. And I thought that would be very cool, but and we turn up and it was him, and I was trying not to fanboy. But he was telling all these stories, and I was like, yeah, I know, I'm very aware of what you've done.
Oh, mine probably just definitely Bannerman's like seeing that many people and actually moving to your music, and at that point as well, we'd been, I mean, it wasn't even a year, and there was like a room full of
It's
people.
only about
like,
6 months.
Yeah, people singing Dirty Disco, like just that is to this day the most surreal thing that's happened to us so far. And yeah, until people start singing, I swear it's gonna stay there.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
man.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Yeah.